Welcome. Today we're going to be taking a look at Starship Interstellar. This is a 2 to 4 player action selection resource management space exploration game. In the year 2357, the sun is nearing the end of its life and becoming a red giant. So life on Earth is going to be destroyed, and quite possibly the Earth itself. Our only hope is to build an interstellar starship and escape with a fraction of the population to a new Earth in the TRAPPIST system. So you will take the role of nations contributing to this effort, trying to become the most prestigious contributor and win the game. How do you become the most prestigious contributor and win the game? By having the most prestige points at the end of the final round. Now that we know what the winning condition is, let's take a look at the components, setup, and how gameplay works in Starship Interstellar. Now let's take a look at the components. Keep in mind that this is a prototype, and many of the components will be plastic in the production copy. First, we have the main game board. In the top left of the main game board, you have the solar system. This contains your orbits and where your explorer will be located. To the right of the solar system, you have your sun status. This has the solar spiral track. This keeps track of when the sun becomes a red giant, as well as when Mercury, Venus, and quite possibly Earth is destroyed. It also has spaces that will cause a solar event. Next to this track, you have future solar events and past solar events. And below that is your solar exploitation track. This track will trigger movement on the solar spiral track. Below this, you have your probe journey to TRAPPIST track. This is where you'll send your probe to check out the TRAPPIST system and the new Earth. Below this track is a key for the tiles drawn when advancing your probe. Under this, we have the market. This is where resources are bought and sold. Below our solar system and the resource market, you have your planetary zones. Each planet has their own zone. At the top of each zone, you have the odds of being able to extract resources of a particular color. The planetary zone is then split into 4 equal sections for each of the nations. In that section, you have a place for your deposit, 3 spaces for buildings, and 5 spaces for storage. Below the planetary zones, you have your prestige track. In the bottom left, you have your Earth section. On the left side of this are your cryopods that will transport population to the TRAPPIST system. Next to that, you have your reputation track. Each round, based on your reputation track location, you will gain a number of prestige points. Next to that, you have the Earth, which is where your current available population to be saved and placed in the cryopods is located. Next to the Earth, you have your progress summary. The top track is the Leaders of Mankind track. This is used when you rescue population. Under that is the Leaders of the Starship track, which you will go up when you build mechanisms. Under those tracks is the turn order tracks for both the action phase and the salvation phase. And then the bottom shows the steps for the government phase. To the right of that section, you have your world government. This is where you will send scientists to collect bonuses and possibly become the governor. And then finally in the bottom right, you have the Starship construction track. This is where mechanisms will be located that will help construct the interstellar starship. The top row is future projects, the second row is current projects, and then the bottom row is long-term projects. Planet tokens, these are to indicate the locations of each planet in the solar system. Starship modules, these are where you will place mechanisms and flip over when a piece of the starship has been built. Planetary production tokens, these are used when you explore and place a base on a planet that will give you resources of the depicted type to your deposit on that planet and also to your personal supply. Solar event tokens, these tokens are triggered when the solar spiral track reaches an exclamation point. Then based on the color of that space, you would perform the depicted action. Extra action tokens. There are many spaces on the tracks that would give you extra action tokens. Starship mechanisms. These have depicted color cubes on the token as well as a prestige number that you will receive when you build this mechanism. Discovery tokens, point of interest tokens, these are used when you are advancing your probe in the TRAPPIST area. Fuel cubes in black, the small cubes are worth 1 and the large are worth 5. Resource cubes in 5 colors, and the small is worth 1 and the large is worth 5. Indicator tokens, these will be used to mark the solar spiral location, solar extraction location, and the government probe location. Population meeples in those same 5 colors, a sun bag, and now your player components. Player screen, you have a player board. On the left side of your player board, you have building technology. These advance left to right. Underneath the building technology, you have the resource value. On the right side of your player board, you have the exploitation technology, travel technology, and then salvation technology. To the right side of that, you have your salvation technology cost. Basic action tokens. On these action tokens, you will use one side for the action phase and the other side for the salvation phase. Pass token, wormhole token, an explorer, bases, ARS, converters, outposts, drills, and your probe, scientists, counters, and then finally, your rulebook. Now let's take a look at the setup. We're going to be setting this up for a 3-player game which takes 13 general steps and 8 player steps. Step 1, place the game board and planets. Place the main game board in the center of the play area and each planet on its starting position. Keep in mind that experienced players can place them randomly on their orbits. Step 2, sort, shuffle, and place planetary production tokens. Sort the production tokens by planet, shuffle, and randomly choose 4, placing them face down on their matching planet. Step 3, prepare the solar bag. Fill the solar bag with a number of resources based on the number of players. For each player, you would place 6 red, 5 yellow, 5 green, 3 blue, and 2 purple. Step 4, place the indicator for the solar spiral track and the solar exploitation track. Step 5, select and place solar event tokens. Randomly select 9 solar event tiles, shuffle them, and place them face down on the future solar event space. This is labeled Next Event. Step 6, place resource pools. Place the resource and fuel cubes next to the main board. Step 7, place the population. Randomly draw a number of population meeples based on the number of players. In a 2-player game, you draw 14, 3-player it's 16, 4-player it's 18. And then you'll place them on the Earth. Step 8, prepare the journey to Trappist area. Separate, shuffle, and place the Discovery and Point of Interest tokens next to the board, and then place the Government Probe, which is an indicator token, on the gold space in the first column. Step 9, place Starting Mechanism tokens. Shuffle the Starting Mechanism tokens, place 4 in the top row and 4 in the bottom row of the bottom right of the main game board in the Spaceship Construction site. Step 10, shuffle and place the remaining mechanism tokens. You'll shuffle and place them face down next to the Starship Construction site. Step 11, shuffle and place modules. You'll shuffle the modules and place them with the under construction side up near the Spaceship Construction site. Step 12, place the extra action tiles. You will draw 3 extra action tiles per player and place them next to the main board. Step 13, place market cubes. You'll place a cube of each color on the market track. Now the player steps. Step 1, get your player components. You'll choose a color and nation and get the corresponding player screen, player board, basic action tokens, pass token, wormhole, probe, drills, bases, converters, outposts, your explorer, ARS, scientists, and counters. Step 2, you'll place your scientists. You'll place 4 behind your player screen and the rest in your general supply next to the main board. Step 3, place your explorer on Earth and the solar system on the main board. Step 4, place your bases behind your player screen. Step 5, place your basic actions and pass token behind your player screen. Step 6, place your counters. You'll place a counter on 10 on the prestige track, 0 on the reputation track, the first space on the leader of mankind track, as well as the first space on the leaders of the interstellar track, on the active phase turn order track in random order, next to the salvation phase turn order track, and in the first column in the journey to Trappist area. Step 7, place your remaining pieces in the general supply. Step 8, gain 10 fuel and place them behind your player screen. Now let's take a look at the gameplay. A game consists of a number of rounds until either the solar spiral has reached Earth, destroying the Earth, or any 2 of the following. The 3rd module has been completed, all of the available cryopods are full, which is a number of rows for the number of players plus 1, or at least 1 probe has reached the Trappist system. A round. A round consists of 3 phases. Action, where you use action tokens explore, gather, and advance technology. The salvation phase, which is where you use resources to contribute to save humanity, gaining reputation and prestige. And then the government phase. This is your cleanup and setup for the next round. Now let's look at each phase in detail. Phase 1, the action phase. In turn order, players will choose one of 3 options. To play a new action token and perform the action, repeat your last action token if it has an infinity symbol, or pass using your pass token. When you choose to play your pass token, you turn your token for each unspent action token and place your counter on the first available space in the salvation turn order track, and then each subsequent time it is your turn, you would rotate your pass token to gain a better reward at the end of the action phase. If it happens to rotate completely around, you would gain any of the depicted resources of your choice and then rotate it to the 2 fuel space. Now let's look at all of the possible actions. There are 5 possible actions. First, solar extraction. This is a single action that can only be done once per round. You would draw 2 resources from the solar bag, then choose to keep 2, 1, or 0. Once you've made your choice, you would go down the reputation track, a number equal to the value of all the resources that you kept. This information is located on your player board. And then finally, you would advance the solar exploitation, a number equal to the value of all the resources kept. If this crosses the line, based on the number of players, you would return it to the starting space and advance the solar spiral token. If that space has an exclamation mark on it, you would reveal a solar event immediately and apply effects. These effects may be advancing the solar spiral track again, or moving a certain color of population to the cryopods. The second type of action, technology research. This action is repeatable. You would choose a technology. It has to be the leftmost of any of the rows on the left side of your player board, or the leftmost of the 2 rows on the right side of your player board, or any of the 4 in the bottom right of your player board. You would pay the resource cost depicted to the market, keeping in mind that you can always pay a higher color resource 1-to-1 for a lower color resource. Then you would place a scientist on that space, and from now on you would get that benefit. The benefit of each one of these is listed in the rulebook. The ARS allows you to bring resources from your storage on planets directly to your supply. The converters allow you to convert resources to higher resources on particular planets. Outposts allow you to add fuel to your supply. Drills allow you to add more resources from your deposit to your storage. Solar extraction technology row allows you to take more resources and lessen your reputation cost. Travel technology reduces the cost to travel. And then the salvation technologies in the bottom right would allow you to do a higher level of an action for those 4 actions during the salvation phase. The third type of action is the planetary production. This is a single action. You would gain resources and activate buildings on that specific planet. You would move a resource from the deposit to the storage for a base, and 1 more if you have your explorer on that planet. Then you would activate and resolve any of your buildings you wish in any order you wish, keeping in mind that the deposit are where your resources begin on a planet. Storage is where the resources will go so that you can bring them on your explorer to your reserve. Keep in mind that if it is an improved building, you would apply the lowest effects to the highest. The fourth type of action is travel. This is a repeatable action. You can move your explorer from your current location to another planet of your choice and establish a base if you meet the requirements. Before your explorer leaves a planet, you can load your explorer with any number of resources, buildings, or fuel, placing it in front of your player screen. The fuel cost to travel is 1 for takeoff, 1 for each orbit moved into, including the asteroid belt, and 1 for each quadrant line crossed. Fuel is paid from the explorer, not the reserve. So when you take off, you must have enough fuel to make it around. If you don't have enough fuel to get back to Earth, you have to pay 2 prestige per fuel that you need. When you are unloading, Earth would unload resources or fuel into your reserve. When you're establishing a base, you would take 4 steps. Step 1, based on the planet, you would draw a random planetary production token. Then you can spend 2 fuel to draw a second, which would give you 2 to choose from. And this can continue by paying 2 fuel more for a third and 2 fuel more for a fourth. Step 2, you would place the chosen tile on top of your travel token and placing the others back on the planet face down. This becomes your new current action tile. Step 3, place the resources based on the number and color that is depicted on the top right in your deposit region on that planet. And then step 4, you will take the top left number of that same resource type from the general supply into your reserve. After that, you may place any of the other buildings on your explorer in empty building spaces on that planet. To dismantle a base, you would remove the base, then you would return any of the resources in your deposit area to the general supply. You place that planet's production token next to your player board. This cannot be used anymore during the action phase. Keep in mind, if your base is on a planet that is destroyed, then all of your buildings on that planet are removed from the game. The fifth action is the market action. This is a repeatable action. This is where you buy or sell resources in the market. For buying resources from the market, you would pay the total value in fuel plus 2 fuel per cube. For selling resources to the market, you can sell all you want of one color. You would gain a number of fuel equal to the total value of the resources sold plus 2 for each cube sold. When placing them in the market, once they exceed the spaces for the number of players, excess cubes would go to the general supply. After all the players pass, players would gain resources based on their pass tile. They would be able to choose a reward at or below the level reached on their pass tile. And then we would move to phase 2, the salvation phase. During the salvation phase, you would place your planetary production tokens to the side as they are not used during this phase. Then in turn order, players would turn over their action tokens and play them as salvation tokens to take an action or pass. Keep in mind that during this phase, the actions do not have to match the depicted salvation actions on your action tokens. If the token matches the action that you are taking, you would gain 1 prestige point as a bonus. The possible actions are build a mechanism for the Interstellar, send a representative to the world government, save a population, advance your probe, or pass. During this phase, passing follows the same rules as the action phase. Now let's look at each of the possible actions during the salvation phase. Build a mechanism for the Interstellar. The mechanisms available are the current projects or the middle row in the spaceship construction site. You would choose a mechanism, you'd pay the resource cost to the market. The cost is the depicted colors on that tile. Then you would place it on the Starship module that is in progress and under construction. You would gain the prestige points shown, and then you would advance 1 space on the leaders of the Starship track. This is the second track in the summary area. And then you would gain the depicted bonus. This could be fuel, a scientist, extra action tokens, or prestige points. Then you would check if the module is complete. Once you do that, you would move a future project to the current project and draw a tile to fill in the future project space. When a module is completed, you would flip that module over, place the current governor on the command post for that module, creating a new governor, and anyone on that row with the governor can move to any space on that row. The second type of action is to send a representative to the world government. You would place a scientist from your personal supply on the lowest row of the government where you don't already have a scientist. Then you would gain the depicted bonus and all of the bonuses to the left of that scientist. But keep in mind that the governor is the scientist in the highest row and the furthest to the left. They will gain bonuses at the end of round. The third type of salvation action is to save a population. You will save 1 population or 1 meeple from the Earth. You would choose a population meeple from the Earth, pay the matching resource cube to the market, keeping in mind that you can pay higher in a 1-to-1 ratio. Then you would move the meeple to the leftmost empty space in the highest row of the cryopods. If this space is the last space of a row, it has a refill icon, and you will refill the population on Earth by adding 10 random meeples. Then you would advance the reputation track equal to the level of that population meeple that you saved. And then finally, move 1 on the Leaders of Mankind track and gain the bonus. The fourth type of salvation action is advance your probe. Move your probe to an adjacent space in the next column. So you can go directly right, diagonally up, or down. And if the space is empty, you would draw a discovery token or a point of interest token and place it in that space with your probe on top. You would gain the benefit, which is depicted under the track. Discovery tokens go for any space that doesn't have a symbol in it. Point of interest tokens are drawn when you land on a space that has a probe icon in that space. You would pay the fuel cost located at the top of the new column, keeping in mind that only galaxies or wormholes are continual bonuses, so other players can land on those and gain that bonus. Also keep in mind that probes can be on top of each other on a space. When your probe reaches the end, you will get the highest empty planet space. Every player that reaches the end gets 10 bonus prestige. And then players will go around taking their turns until all players pass, and then players would get resources based on their pass token, and then we would move to phase 3, the world government phase. The world government phase is the cleanup phase in preparation for the next round and takes 9 steps. Step 1, government construction. The current project with the lowest prestige is automatically completed and added to the module. The current governor would get that number of prestige points. Step 2, rescue humanity. The lowest level meeple is placed in the pods. The governor would get the reputation reward. Step 3, government probe explores. The governor would choose to move the government probe and gain the reward if it discovers anything. If there are no governors, then no one would receive that bonus. Step 4, new long-term project. You would move the highest current project to the long-term project row, and then move the matching future project to the current project row. And then you would refill the future projects as normal. Step 5, clear the market. Remove the most common resource from the market. Step 6, advance the solar spiral. You would advance 1 space on the solar spiral track. Step 7, refill the population. You would add 1 population per player to the Earth. Step 8, reputation rewards. You will go up or down the number of prestige based on your reputation location. And finally, step 9, planets would move. Each planet moves 1 space or dot clockwise. And then now we're ready for the next round. Then rounds would continue until either the Earth is destroyed or 2 of the following occur, the third module being completed, all available cryopods are full, which is the number of rows equal to the number of players plus 1, or at least 1 probe reached the TRAPPIST system. Then we finish the round and go to the final scoring. The final scoring takes 4 steps. Step 1, move your explorer back to Earth if it is not already there using the movement rules. Step 2, convert all resources to fuel using the market rate. Step 3, gain 1 prestige for every 5 fuel. Step 4, gain prestige based on your location in the journey to the TRAPPIST track. Players will gain the column number times the award position, keeping in mind that if you are tied, you would get the higher reward. And then once players finish calculating their prestige, the player with the most prestige is the most prestigious nation in contributing to save humanity and will now guide humanity and govern that new Earth and win Starship Interstellar.